it would be very easy to have it go to your head. Go Hollywood is what they say about certain people. And there would be no way anyone brought up in Yankee land could have this happen. So I felt very fortunate that that was my background.
She was born in an unattractive mill town called Lowell in Massachusetts. They named her Ruth Elizabeth Davis. The date was April the 5th, 1908.
And of course I was born early enough to have a really Puritan upbringing. I mean, I can remember my grandmother lived with my aunt where I visited in Massachusetts many times. I remember Mother making me a dress to go to a party. And the neckline was, I swear to you, it was about here. And she said, "Betty, you look as if you were going out in your nightgown." Yes, very, very Puritan she was. Mother believed in compliments, which was not the Puritan way. If she approved of something or if she thought we looked particularly well, she would always compliment us, which I think is one of the most important things you can do with children, of all the important things. She was rather modern in that way, as regards being a Yankee woman.
Her father was a solemn intellectual, a lawyer who looked upon children as a necessary evil. The parents were incompatible and separated when Betty was only 7.
We had the last sort of dinner all together. Although I sensed something was wrong, I remember my father saying goodbye, and Mother told us that Daddy would not be living with us anymore. He was not very nice to my mother, so I was delighted. I really felt happy for her and for all of us, because the atmosphere at home was not a nice one. From then on, my sister and I and my mother, we called ourselves the Three Musketeers. It was sort of us against the world.
Ruth Davis struggled independently to raise her children, and Betty was never more aware of the sacrifices her mother made than on her graduation day at Cushing Academy.
My mother by then was a professional photographer, and she paid the final tuition at Cushing Academy with the photographs of the senior class. At that time, there was a developer poisoning you got. And I remember her face was all sort of covered with developer poisoning, and she was a rail, and she had sort of, she couldn't afford to have a very beautiful dress. I remember it was a big straw hat and this kind of sad little print dress. And I remember standing on that platform and saying, "One day, you will never work again." It was a terrific incentive. And thank heavens my life worked out that I could live up to that promise.
When Bette Davis began her 18-year association with Warner Brothers, they were producing films on small budgets and tight schedules. Hard discipline gave the studio the nickname of San Quentin. It was run by a tough team of brothers in business to make money, the Warner Brothers.
These men were at least gamblers. Whether they knew anything artistically or not, they had funny hunches about people. They were gamblers. They were incredible men, really and truly. And we haven't any left.
Jack Warner, the head of the studio, was known as the father, the power, and the glory.
He was a very moral man, in a very strange way. Lots of these producers had what they called stables. A lot of little girls under contract for $75 a week, and they'd give them little bit parts to keep them happy, and then they also had other services. Warner was not that at all. He did not tolerate this. As a matter of fact, no woman, script girls, whatever woman was on a set was never allowed to wear pants, ever, at Warner Brothers. And you would not think of going into his office in pants. He was a strange combination. And a very weird, vulgar sense of humor. His speeches to his employees, when we'd all have to gather when they all wanted to give us cuts or something, were absolutely appalling for a man worth what he owned, etc. But in spite of the insurrections which had to be, that was the foundation of everything I'm doing now. It was glorious. It was a glorious time. lives were made happier because of Hollywood, because actually the only royalty America has ever had are the actors in Hollywood. I mean, by royalty, I mean to look up to dream about, to want to copy, and to be like.
In 1933, she became enveloped in a Hollywood fantasy at a time when the rest of America was trying to cope with a crippling depression. Money was scarce, and millions were jobless.
The Depression, of course, was incredible because we were on a publicity train financed by General Electric. We did 16 cities in 16 days. And we had some rough experiences because the banks were closed. We were almost derailed twice because we looked like these gorgeous, rich Hollywood people. And they didn't like rich Hollywood people, a lot of those people. So we were in some kind of danger. And sometimes we'd look out the window in stations and people would just be sticking their tongues out at us and shaking their fists. And, yeah, it wasn't funny when he closed those banks. In spite of that, the tour was incredible. And I learned what films meant to people.
In the film Fashions of 34, she was glamorized almost beyond recognition. They gave her a platinum wig, false eyelashes, a huge mouth, and slinky clothes.
I was the biggest imitation of Miss Garbo that ever lived. Oh, ludicrous. And I never did that again. Well, I looked perfectly absurd. It just didn't go with what I was. And you must follow your own course. And I was basically an actress, not somebody who was a glamour girl.
I'm giving a party, too. A big one, Saturday night. I got a jazz band coming up from Memphis.
Well, that's fine.
I want you to come and be my boyfriend.
Honest?
Sure. It'll be a bit formal, but you needn't doll up. Just something dark and nice.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Miss Madge.
Cabin in the Cotton was a signpost, had the powers that be really thought about it. A signpost of the kind of parts I could play.
You'd look nice all dressed out, wouldn't you? And don't call me Miss Madge. Saturday night about 8:30, honey. A cigarette.
In Cabin in the Cotton, she played a rich and conniving Southern belle, the independent woman. It was the type of part in which she would later excel.
I'll be seeing you. Don't work too hard. We're going to dance the Peckerwood Wiggle, or whatever you call it, and I want you to lead the figure.
Oh, I'd be glad to. Madge.
Cute. I'd like to kiss you, but I just washed my hair. Bye.
I have often wondered why I had such enjoyment from playing these women, but they are media from the standpoint of your craft. But they're also enjoyable to play. So I always, as I grew older, wondered if this was really in my nature way underneath. I've never given a definite statement on this fact yet.